Another way of thinking about the closed yes-no questions is that the basic information doesn't change in the answer. The answer only gives us confirmation, one way or the other, of the data in the question. It doesn't matter how long or short it is. For example, do you smoke? Yes, I smoke. Did you ever get that feeling in the moonlight, the wonderful feeling that you want to be kissed? No, I never got that feeling in the moonlight, the wonderful feeling that I want to be kissed. This means that it's usually easy to answer yes-no questions. You can either just say yes or no, or, if you have a good memory, you can repeat the information exactly as it was in the question. With open questions, the answer generally has more information than the question, sometimes much more. Now, this will become important later, so keep it in mind. Many of the open questions in Polish have straightforward English equivalents. Co, what? Kto, who? Gdzie, where? Który, which? Kiedy, when? Czyj, whose? Dlaczego, why? Some of them we need to be careful with. Jak, how or what. Jaki, what, like, which. Skąd, from where. Many of them can be combined with prepositions. For example, z kim, with whom. O czym, about what. Dokąd, to where. Some of them are a little more complex. They already have some data included. For example, what colour car? Which curtains? How many different types of apple? Now, in English, we can divide all of these open questions into two types. The questions that translate directly and follow a simple pattern which almost always works. And the idiomatic, the phrasebook questions that you simply need to learn because the Polish question doesn't translate directly. It's the small number of exceptions to the pattern. Now, the exceptions to the pattern are easy and you probably already know them. So we'll come back to them later. First, let's look at this simple pattern that almost always works. We'll start with the yes-no questions in the picture. We'll start with a simple question. What? If we put this word in front of every yes-no question in the picture, we get an open question. For example, do you drink? What do you drink? Is she eating? What is she eating? Will I start? What will I start? Were you singing? What were you singing? Now, does this work with all of the open questions? Yes. Obviously, some questions simply don't work. For example, who were you singing? But the pattern works with all of the yes-no questions from the tenses picture. And all of the other yes-no questions as well. So, if you want to ask an open question, simply put it in front of a yes-no question and it works. Sometimes you have to put in or take out the subject of the yes-no question. Remember, the open question has less data than the answer. For example, does she drive a Ferrari? What does she drive? Is she eating fries? What is she eating? Were you singing jazz? What were you singing? One of the commonest mistakes when asking questions in English is to ask something that isn't a question, but a statement. For example, what he has eaten instead of what has he eaten. It's very easy to understand how this happens. In Polish, the yes-no questions are statements with ch in front of them. The word order does not need to change because the ch tells us it's a question. When we add the open question word, we don't change the word order. In English, the word order tells us that it is a question. So when we add the open question word to the yes-no question, we must keep the word order of the yes-no question. Another way of thinking about this would be to say almost every open question in English has a yes-no question inside it. Now, some people like to have a formula to help them remember stuff. Okay, here's one. Let's say that the open question words, what, who, how, etc., are represented by the letter Q. The formula so far for asking questions in English is Q plus yes, no, question mark. Here are a few examples. When can we meet? Where was he going? How do you feel? Which curtains should they choose? How many types of apple can I buy? But what do we do with? The other difficult thing about questions in English is that if we use a preposition with, from, to, since, above, etc., it can move. We need to decide where to put it. Of course, this is often very easy. We could say, who were you with at the party? Or who were you at the party with? Or with who were you at the party? Now, all three of these are fine, but sometimes in longer, more complex sentences, the choice is much more difficult. With who were you with at the party, with in the kitchen, with next to the vodka, with when the dog got into the microwave oven, with and exploded, with. Okay, it's a slightly strange example, but you understand the point. The choice is not always simple. And you can't always put the preposition P anywhere you'd like. So, what's the solution? It's, once again, very simple. Put the P in front of the Q at the start. For example, since when has he been here? In which bar did you drink? Like some of the tenses, you might find that the person you're talking with does it in a different way, but that doesn't matter. It's always correct and occasionally even quite elegant. The other important point is that it is basically the same structure we use in Polish, so it's easier to remember when you're under pressure. The preposition and the open question word stay together at the beginning. This is one of the biggest reasons for suggesting that you use this pattern. And here are a few more examples. Where were you? From where were you driving on Monday night? In what colour car were you driving? Since when have we been meeting here? With how many types of apple should I make the cake? At the start of this section, we divided the open questions into two types. The huge majority that work with the formula and the idiomatic phrasebook exceptions. We'll look at these in the next video.